I've learned that you want to be your best self. But you gotta learn who you are. If you learn who you are and you become confident in who you are, you're gonna be the best person possible for yourself and also people around you. Stay tuned and enjoy.
Jun Jo, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to sit down with you here in a field a few miles outside of Taichung, I believe. It's been quite an epic 10 days here in Taiwan as we come together for the vast 10-year friendship tour. But before I go into that, yeah, thank you very much for sitting down.
It's a long time coming, yeah.
I know as a man you go about your life quite privately and you tend to shy away from the limelight. So I feel quite honored and privileged to be able to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's just about that time. Sometimes it's just good to tell stories and maybe someone can learn something from mine and take a little bit from it and put it in their own life, yeah.
Asia is, feels like coming home to you. You've been living in Hawaii for quite some time now, but being back in Asia is always an easy transition from being in Hawaii and coming out here because you've got a strong heritage in Japan.
That's true, yeah. You know, my dad is actually from the southern islands of Kyushu, and his background is from an educational background. My grandfather is a professor, my grandma was a high school teacher. So when he was 18, he got shipped to Tennessee, out of all places. From my grandfather had a counterpart that was a professor there in Tennessee. And my mom actually is from New York. And so she was and she comes from a Jewish American background. And, you know, with all Jewish American mothers, they all want to run away from their moms right away. So the furthest place she thought she could go is Tennessee from New York. And that's where she met my dad. From there, of course, you know, they fell in love and, you know, moved back to Japan and had me. And so I've always had some Japanese background. I lived there till I was 5 and then moved to Hawaii when I was 5, yeah.
So you were born in Japan?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts?
This southern island called Kyushu.
Okay.
Miyazaki, which is the main town there. But our family's home is about an hour away in a town called Kushima. Small country, rural town. Maybe, no, not too small, maybe 40,000 people, yeah.
And the move, what prompted the move back to Hawaii, do you think?
Let's see.
Or to Hawaii?
To Hawaii. My mom always wanted to move to Hawaii. She had this kind of dream of hers. In Japan, they have this, I forget what it's called, but it's it's a doll that has one eye. It has 2 eyes, one's clear, they're both clear at the time. You basically make a dream. And you put you mark one eye, you mark in one eye, and when a dream happens, you put the second one in. So my mama made a dream that she wanted to move to Hawaii, so she marked the one eye, and then she my dad got a job opportunity in Hawaii, so we moved there when I was 5.
Incredible.
And so she has, she marked the second one when she got to Hawaii, and yeah, it's like part of like Japanese culture that she
Manifested it.
yeah, manifested and embraced. Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I have 2 younger brothers. One's Yosuke. He's they're all 3 years apart. He was a pro surfer as well, but he didn't have like the anger that professional surfers need to make it. He's really nice. He's too nice, I think. And then I had a younger brother, and he's more went the more educational route. So he's pretty. He works for the government. Yeah, yeah.
So you grew up in Hawaii, on the North Shore or sort of further south?
Well, we grew up all over the place. We always moved around all over the island. We lived in town. We lived in a place called Pearl City. We lived in Waimanalo, which is where my brother lives now. Kailua, Kaneohe, and then now I'm in Manoa, which is right outside of Honolulu. So it was kind of an advantage because I grew up all over the island, so I made friends throughout my childhood with all different types of people, all different types of friends throughout the island. So basically, I figure I grew up with everyone. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think people don't necessarily realize how, the diversification of like the different spots around the island, and how.
Yeah, sorry. Every island, the island has so many different, but it's Hawaii in general. We have so many different cultures in one place, so many different people. We have, Filipinos, whites, blacks, Hawaiians, a very big Asian community, Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Micronesians. So it's a very, they call it a melting pot, which is, it truly is, yeah, with the foods and cultures that we all share.
So growing up as a kid, was it quite a natural sort of progression into, or not progression, but did it happen quite naturally that you got into beach life and surfing and being down by the ocean?
Well, funny enough, there's a time when I lived in Waimanalo. I started pretty late in surfing. I started when I was about 13 years old, which is pretty late for any professional surfer standards. So I started at 13, living in Tonka, Waimanalo, and during the summertime, I boxed at the time with a friend of mine. And it was like kind of lightly boxing. It wasn't very serious, but there's a gym there that all the kids went to go box at. So we basically would go boxing, and then after practice we'd go run to the beach to cool off. And so, just this natural thing happened where every time after practice first, we'd jump in the ocean, then soon you want to catch a little whitewash inside body surfing. And from there, there's a McDonald's on the way. So what we did was steal the McDonald's trays and then start using those to catch waves. And then that went into bodyboarding, and then from there I got into surfing. And I figured, and once I started surfing and once I started standing up, I went less to boxing and I just went full on into surfing. Yeah.
Never heard of a McDonald's tray being used as a bodyboard before,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty common in Hawaii. Like if you tell any like local guy, like, hey, like, it's kind of reminiscing. You say, oh, McDonald's tray, like bust that out, like bring it out. And the local guy would be like, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Before we could afford a hand plane or
Yeah.
like.
And the crazy thing is, like, we were stealing so many trays that they actually started to punch holes in the trays so that if the water fly in your face, if you used it. So that was the end of that. But that's how many McDonald's trays are being stolen. Yeah.
Wow.
To use for surfing. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And okay, so now we're in your early teens.
Mm-hmm.
And you're surfing regularly. You've obviously now got a love for the sport. And how did you move into like deciding that this is going to be a career path for you?
I just think, the instant I started surfing was like, that's all I thought about. It's just like, that was my life, like 100%. Like, I stopped going to school at the time. Like, I'd cut school just because I wanted to surf. And we lived in front of like a really bad beach break. It has its moments, but basically it's just an onshore beach break that's like, it could be from knee high to like maybe, this high, chest high. That's all we got. Onshore, broken up waves. And you just make up things in your head. You'd imagine the waves being better than they really are. And that's all we surfed every day. And yeah, I was just in love with surfing. That's all I could think about. Just so like, it was everything.
And how were your folks about the decision that, well, first of all, did they know about your truancy?
They found it eventually, and they're pretty upset. But at that time, my mom and dad's previously split up.
Okay.
So basically, my mom and my two other brothers, and so she's just busy, holding down 2 jobs and working. So we kind of had to semi raise ourselves in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So there wasn't many rules in our household.
Yeah.
So we're pretty wild. Yeah.
Was that looking back, I suppose at the time you kind of just crack on, right? But looking back, would you say that was a challenging part of your life when your folks kind of split?
Yeah, I think for every child around that age, it's difficult. That's just it's a common thing nowadays. Yeah, it's difficult at times. Yeah, for sure.
But I suppose it helped shape who you are in terms of having to, as you say, get out there and just crack on with.
Yeah, I think you find your community of surf friends and the ocean as your father.
Yeah.
At those times. So, yeah, it's pretty. Especially, I feel like maybe our generation, that was really common. That kind of stuff where our friends were like our dads, or what we're into, or it was like our guidance and keep us in line, check us when they need to check us, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Did you have any kind of mentors in those early days?
Not particularly. Yeah, we're just a wild bunch, just trying to surf, and that's it. We'd surf like little beach in front of our where we lived at, and then we would start hitchhiking. 13 years old, 14 years old, hitchhiking to Makapu, which is 5 miles away. Then go to Sandy's, which is around the corner. That'd be another 7 or 8 miles away. So just 13-year-old kids hitchhiking, catching waves, and having scrape up all our money together, and maybe sharing a Jack in the Box meal deal, 4 or 5 kids, just splitting it up, and that's how we did it. Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah, best of days.
So when did you pick up your first sponsor? Because now you'd kind of just immersed yourself in surfing in your heart of hearts. I'm sure by then you decided that that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't that great at surfing, but my love for it was huge. I didn't really have much sponsors just because I just didn't do contests too much. Contests were $20 a pop at that time. And that's mid 80s. That's probably relative to $150 today time, or $100 or so. So it's quite expensive. So I really didn't get opportunity to get known. And I had some minor sponsors, but they were not really that they weren't that helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of got my big break was when I was 16. I met this is my bridge to Japan now, surfing there. I met this guy Shuji Kusuya just randomly in the water, and Shuji was the most celebrated, most famous surfer in Japan ever, superstar status, Coca-Cola commercials, he surfed incredibly. They call him the Tom Curran of Japan, and he was just he was just the guy, And so I met him randomly because he moved to Hawaii with his wife at the time, and he found out I had Japanese citizenship. So I just met him randomly, and then we became kind of friends, and then kind of happened quite quick. A couple weeks later, he asked me, do you want to go to Japan and surf as a professional? And I was like, holy shit, I barely had sponsors, and now I'm going to be now I have opportunity to be a pro surfer. You kidding me? That's the dream of all dreams. So through him, I met his sponsor at the time. Was called Dropout Surfboards, which was the biggest surfboard brand in Japan, run by Edo and Mia Ogawa. And so I met them, and they're in Hawaii at the time as well. So I met them, and they're I feel like maybe they really like me, and so they just gave me this shot, come to Japan, surf for our company, and try and do the Japanese tour.
Why the encouragement to go and surf in Japan? Was he at the time trying to bolster and promote surfing in Japan, as opposed to stay in Hawaii, surf under the brand? What was the reason for him suggesting that you go to Japan to build your surfing career?
just because that's where they were at, and then that's where their company was based around.
Okay.
So I didn't really. I mean, at that point, I was being a professional surfer, even having like free stuff was like the dream of all. Like that was like I never thought of that in my life. Like it was not even like fathomable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I met them, and next thing you know, like I met them in December, and by April I was flying over to Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whirlwind.
Yeah, like 16 years old, like leaving school. My mom's like, okay, you're on your way. Use your passports.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she was supportive of you, eh?
She was supportive. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get to Japan, greenhorn.
Yeah.
You must have felt a little bit intimidated at first, right?
I mean, you know, when you're not that well traveled, you go to some place and you just don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You just I think at that time I thought it was gonna be easier than it was gonna be. I'm like, okay, like I'm an American surfer, I'm gonna go to Japan, I'm gonna dominate. It's gonna be easy. It's gonna be like all these people are gonna like help me out and stuff. And when I got there, remember when I landed, it's just like it's like really like a cold, rainy, like almost snowy day. And I remember just like going, like flying out the airport, flying in the plane, landing, and looking out the window, going, "Wow, this looks like something I'd never seen before." Like it just felt like dark and intimidating. And I think that's like the moment I went, "Okay, like this is gonna be tough." You know, there's a lot of things I have to change within myself to be successful. So
And was it at first?
it was difficult, you know. I mean, didn't know the language, living in a new place. The waves weren't that great where we lived at. Well, you know, you carry a lot of stress because you want to do your best. So yeah, it was pretty difficult. Yeah.
Were you living communal living, like with the other team members?
No, I was living with the family.
Oh, okay.
So they took me in, which is really cool. And Edo's wife Mie she's half I think she's half American, half Japanese. So she spoke really good English. And of course, Edo, he was pretty well traveled, so he spoke pretty good English as well.
Yeah.
So they really took me in as one of their own, and like that gave me this huge opportunity. Yeah.
So we're talking what, early 90s now, eh?
Probably still late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you stayed in Japan for what length of time? If you just track it into one sort of chapter.
The first trip was like 4 months.
Okay.
And so in Japan they have like this thing called pro class trials. So basically you have to go through this like licensing. Well, it's funny, like before you even have to enter a contest, you have to go through this licensing thing where they give you like a credit, like accreditation, like a card.
Okay.
So you go to this like first contest, and it's like all these like hundreds of people trying to get like their certification.
Oh really? Yeah.
So you go to the beach and like, okay, like round one, like take off and kick out. You take off and kick out, like, okay, you got your license for level 1.
Oh really?
Yeah. And so you have to get to like level like 4 or something to to enter like a contest. So, you know, you go through that process. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Like
you
a little prelim test.
It is, yeah. And then from there, once you get your license, you can enter this like, it's called pro class trials. And basically either have to get like a certain, they determine the score at the beginning of the day. Like, okay, you have to get a total of 15 points to become a official professional surfer to enter their domestic circuit, or domestic professional circuit.
Yes.
So it's kind of this is kind of the story, and like this is kind of a cool story. Is I got to the contest. I've been waiting like 4 months for it, like, you know, just surfing and going, man, I got to really like do well. And I remember like I went to the certification, I entered the contest, and then remember like my first heat I totally bombed. I remember like being so upset, like where I just got on my wetsuit and started walking home, and our house is probably like 10 maybe 5 or 7 miles away from the beach. I remember walking home after, because I thought I lost. I was just like, oh, I totally bombed. Like, I'm going home. It's over. And I remember Ed and Mie pulling up to me in the van, like, hurry up, you made your heat. You know, I totally bombed the heat, and I'm walking on the street like miles and miles, you know, just sulking with my board and wetsuit, like, oh, fuck. I remember they pulled over and they picked me up, and they just, you know, like, you made it, get back down there. So I jumped in the van and got there, and it was this weird thing that just clicked. Like, I remember my next heat, I just started doing things I'd never done in surfing, like in my whole life, like
Really?
airs and this like doing crazy combinations. And by the final, I was doing like the craziest stuff where like the whole beach and all the people there were just like, they've never seen surfing like that before. They were just tripping out. And so
You won the
I
competition.
won the competition. I became a professional surfer there, entered the circuit. But before that, like, you know, after the contest, basically all Japan's like, oh, there's this like new kid that's like doing like crazy stuff. And
Did you get
like,
some magazine coverage?
not quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that was like, people were going pretty wild. And so from there, that was like, then I got to enter the circuit. So I went home, you know, and stayed a few months at home. Then I went back and started the circuit. Yeah.
So from being at a very low point, walking along the road, as you say, sulking and
Yeah.
thinking that's finished, to being told that you've got a shot, you're in,
Yeah.
you kind of just took it with all you could,
Yeah.
and just
like,
gave
this
us all.
is it. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I just remember being so like, I've never been so sad and bummed in my life. Yeah. At that point.
Yeah, it's amazing how these like small moments, like you can almost track that juncture point where
Yeah.
could have gone either way, right?
It could totally gone bad. Yeah.
If you hadn't won that competition,
Yeah.
it might have,
But
as you say, it spiraled into some sort of.
it's just life, right? Like things just take you certain ways and directions. You know, you have these small opportunities in life, and it's just what the world's gonna make of it for you. You know? Yeah.
So how did you get from winning that first competition to becoming the Japanese champion, national champion?
Yeah. So it was steps. You know, it took me like the first year. They have like these like levels. Like you make top 32, you get like seeded in 32 round. You can make top 16, get the top 16 round. Anyway, it takes time, but you know, the first year I had to start from the very beginning of trials, and then I made it to like I think I got like 28th that year, 27th, which is pretty good for like a rookie.
Yeah.
And then the following year I got into like I think I made 15th, where I barely made the top 16. And so like these in Japan, like this, like they're really into like I don't know what you call it, like levels. You know, if you get like
Okay.
top 32, you'd be, oh, he's in the top 32, or he's in the top 16.
Okay.
They're really
Top 10 kind of.
Yeah,
They're
really
big
into,
on that.
they're really into like those things.
Okay.
So making those things are great accomplishments at that time. And then by the third year, I was just on fire, like just really on fire with like contests, and everything clicked and waves would come my way, and it was just like this pretty I can't say it was easy because it was really stressful
Yeah.
at that time. Japan was really competitive with all the surfboard companies. They're really like, they had teams, you know, like it's like almost like F1. They had like teams like the dropout team, the rock dance team, the sequence team, and so like these companies had their dealers that only sold their surfboards. So there's this big network. If you're on the dropout team, they had their network of like 200 shops all over Japan that would sell only dropout boards, and they're really into that brand. So it's like if you rode for if you like drove for a Ferrari, there'd be like Ferrari dealerships all over the thing, and they're really into like their driver.
The word is loyalty.
Yeah.
Loyalty. Huh?
Yeah, really loyal. So there's a lot of pressure, like a lot of pressure when I was there, and yeah, everything clicked. I was a little stressful.
You were part of which team?
Dropout.
Dropout.
Yeah. And with competing, you gotta kind of like, I guess maybe I know it's for other people, but for me, you gotta have like a little bit of anger in you, and you kind of gotta be like a dick in a lot of ways, which goes against like my inner personality. So
You found that like a wrestle.
it was
like
a wrestle.
an internal wrestle.
Yeah, all the time. So it's pretty stressful. So I did that. I won that third year, and I won the fourth year. Yeah. And the fifth year, I got second. Yeah.
All the while feeling like a part of you's compromising your integrity as like intrinsically your nature.
Yeah, and like personally, I don't really like you're saying previously, like I don't really like the limelight. I rather I like being acknowledged for maybe what my talents or whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm into, what I like to do, but I don't like the attention, which is kind of like an internal like battle in itself as well.
Yeah.
So like
When you're good at something, it's a catch-22 and the of the contradiction. So, I suppose as you've gotten older, you've kind of like come to grips with sometimes you're gonna have to like step into the light a little bit.
Yeah, I think like it's like a balance, you know. But ultimately, you want to. I learned that you want to be your best self, and you gotta like learn who you are. And I think the best if you learn who you are, you're gonna be, and you become confident in who you are. You're gonna be the best person possible for everyone, yourself, and also people around you.
You strike me as someone who's kind of come to grips with that from a very young age.
It took a while. Yeah, it took a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, life you just learn. I mean, I feel like every day we're learning, you know.
Yeah.
And we've been on this, 10-day journey so far, and it's been you have tons of personalities. So I feel like you're always learning through life experiences about yourself, and how you deal with different situations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot on this trip. Yeah.
I know it's a cliche, but I think everyone's kind of on this journey for like a search for authenticity of oneself,
Yeah.
and perhaps we perceive, or not even perception, but perhaps others are further, on a different path to
Yeah.
that, on their own journey to authenticity. Some aren't really even actively trying to search it out. I think they just kind of just doing things how
Like
they know how to do it.
yeah, human nature kind of stuff. Yeah, or that's all they know. Yeah, or they just have their own guiding way. Yeah.
Japanese surfing at that time was it undergoing a growth spurt, like as big as surfing was in Hawaii at the time and on the mainland?
I think it was almost like yeah, it was almost like it worked with America in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Because Japanese surfing was booming, and what was happening at that time. Like for instance, I was like one of the first riders for Volcom when it just first started, and so Japanese surfing was booming, and so of course the industry is booming, and Volcom was a small company starting up. Of course, like from what I felt like Japan was blowing up quicker than the America part. So they work together. I felt like, so Volcom would like make a lot of money from Japan. They could use that funding to help their brand in America and build that up. So it kind of went like hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I think the Japanese surf boom really helped the surf boom that we saw in the 90s in America as well. But Japan was, I mean, my era was like, surfing was booming hard. Like we all got pretty like famous from it. Like all the people that were doing well at that time. We had a lot of opportunities and that kind of stuff.
What was that moment that you kind of really shot to fame in Japan? The cover shots,
Yeah, I think, just doing very well in contests gave me like I put my name on the line. I had a pretty fast trajectory.
Okay.
Yeah, just from like that pro class trials contest, and then, hitting those, 32s, top 32s, 16, and so I think I was like really on the radar. And of course, having a very strong sponsor that really supported me a lot. So yeah, I just started getting like, I mean, we came from an era with like magazines or everything, right? So, I'd get like at least like 3 to 4 cover shots in all the magazines.
Yeah.
Which was like pretty significant, I feel like.
Yeah.
It'd be like getting 2 in Surfer magazine and 2 in surfing, and being like all like the 7-Elevens all throughout Japan, and there's also like fashion magazines that we're all involved with, and it's just part of that boom. Yeah.
So your peers were the likes of Andy Irons, Kelly Slater in those days, Benji Weatherly. We talk about these stalwarts of the early 90s that kind of like were up and coming stalwarts now, but they were young up and coming rippers of the time, the Kalani Robs, of those surfers. Have you formed like many close relationships with that era?
Yes, I mean, we come from like the momentum generation.
Yeah.
So like, I always feel like I was on these guys kind of like, we grew up like, Kelly would come to Hawaii at a very young age. Benji had a house at Pipe that we'd all hang out with. Shane Doran would fly from the Big Island, stay there. Ross lived on the North Shore, Ross Williams.
Yeah.
Kalani is younger than us, so he's like the pipsqueak of the crew. Like,
Okay.
but he's like
Brother.
he's the best, you know, one of the best surfers. And he was much younger than us, so he wasn't really part of our generation. Taylor Knox, of course, Taylor Steele with all his movie making. He was like the genesis of like that movement, you know. So
Yeah.
he was like our medium that we could go through, and he'd put it out there.
Yeah.
So like for me, we were all friends first, to be honest. You know, we're just like guys in like our like 17s, 18s, 19s that just basically we didn't have fathers either. A lot of us didn't have fathers either, so we all helped each other. And a lot of these guys are moving away from home or where they're living at that time.
Yeah.
Living on the North Shore. So I think everyone created a very strong friendship. Yeah, Raul Machado's in that group as well.
For sure. Yeah.
So we've all stayed in touch. You know, I feel like I've always ridden their coattails, because they're like the greatest surfers of all time, and just by me being with them is like almost like guilty by association. So I feel like I was always like, they're just the best ever, you know. And a lot of them still are the greatest surfers of all time. And so I felt like I was always like, I just got the crumbs, you know.
I think that's. I think what you're doing right now is you're stepping out of the limelight story.
Yeah.
I think that you were just as a respected surfer back in the day and representing Japan, and you know, I know we keep talking about Japan, but like, it's so cool that you could essentially also contribute to the Japanese surfing community and building up, you know, that global name.
Yeah.
That they've always been well respected
Yeah.
in the surfing community,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, very honest, very hardworking. Yeah, now this community has like some of the best surfers in the world now. Like, I'll never imagine like a world-class surfer coming from Japan, like the kind that's on the CT or on the verge of being on the CT. So that's like props to the the community and the industry and all that kind of stuff that helped build it all up. Yeah. So, but back to like the Momentum crew, we still talk every day. So Kelly made this text thread and put all of us on there, and we talk every single day. I'll wake up in the morning, there'd be like 50 messages, like all the boys just
That's cool.
talking about whatever, you know, showing pictures of their kids or talking shit about each other or whatever, you know. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Pretty incredible that as you say, that bond was formed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's still there.
Yeah. We're like brothers, you know. Yeah.
At that point, were there any, I'll go back to this, but were there any standouts for you that had stepped into your life that kind of like really helped you through those years as an older figure?
Yeah, I mean, I always, you know, of course, like Shuji Kosuya, the professional surfer in Japan. He really guided me through a lot of my time in Japan. He was always there because he was competing at the time as well.
Got you.
So he was always like, he'd surf, and then he'd also coach, like help, like give me like insights, and we'd work together. So he was really important. And of course, the Gao family, Edo and Mie, they gave me the opportunity. So they really, they were really special to me at that time. But, you know, like for me, I kind of like to create my own path too. So sometimes I didn't take everyone's opinions or stuff or guidance too. I take it pretty lightly at times, yeah. But they were very helpful. They were stable and really helpful for my career at that time. Yeah.
Do you think that that sort of like cutting your own path is born of having to have done so pretty much from a very young age anyway?
I never thought about that, but probably, yeah. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
So what was your highest point in your career?
Highest point?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of great points, you know, like, of course, like the accolades from winning contests or winning several tours or getting cover shots and stuff like that. But to be honest, I feel like my highest point is of recent times, you know, of like still being acknowledged for what I've done in the past. You know, like some people will come up to me randomly, like, "Hey, Jun," like very like excited, or remember maybe they're like reminiscing about those times, or they maybe I affect them in a certain way. So later on in life, I really like I've been like really I feel like that's pretty cool to see. Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's certain personas that resonate with people, and your persona of being like the more sort of withdrawn, humble ripper, you know, obviously resonates with a bunch of people out there, and it's
Right.
cool that you get
Yeah.
that validation, and
Yeah.
you know, they're able to connect with you as a persona.
Yeah.
Not everyone connects with the guy standing on the stage.
Yeah. I never thought
screaming,
of that.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we connect with different personas, but it's great that, as you say, you can still carry that through and still feel that love from
Yeah.
people and appreciation.
Yeah. Through that, I made pretty good friendships too. Being more open to that kind of attention.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool. Yeah.
But you're also an out and out creative. Did you figure that out from a young age, or did you kind of only did you only come to that realization as your surfing career was kind of coming to an end as a pro surfer?
I think it started pretty young, like maybe even before surfing.
Okay.
Yeah, I always remember getting like a piece of clothing and how people would react to it and how it'd make you feel. So I've always had that like feeling, you know.
Yeah.
All through like when I was, you know, from like elementary school to throughout my career, you know, like, you know, soon I'd start, you know, being Bali, and I buy these bright blue shoes that nobody really wore at that time. Everywhere I'd go, people would be like, "Oh, I like your shoes." You'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know, okay." Like people are digging the style. You feel kind of like, you know, I mean, when you look at us, how we're dressing now, I mean, it makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
So I've always had it in me, and you know, throughout traveling, I've always like paid attention to that stuff, or you know, I'd go like, you know, dye my hair pink or green or blue, and with that manic panic stuff back in the day.
Just creative expression and
Yeah. Just kind of the way, maybe because maybe I was a little like quiet or a little like tormented or something inside. So that's the way I like express myself, maybe, or speak, you know. So I always love like way things feel when you wear it and how people react to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So you were coming to the end of your professional surfing career.
Yeah.
Had you at that point started to immerse yourself in the creative aspect of business, essentially?
Yeah, I think, you know, at that time it was, of course, like we were dating ourselves, we're pre-internet. So you'd hang out with people that were like into the same music as you or same fashion and that kind of stuff. So I, of course, had my surf friends, you know, like, but I more hung out people that would like, you know, artists, photographers, designers, people that are in the same type of music I was in at the time. Go to punk rock shows, go to hip hop shows, you know, trade music with each other. So that was like, I was more into like hanging out with those type of people outside of surfing. I was more attracted to like that kind of stuff. It's more fulfilling in a lot of ways. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when did you, I mean, because now we can sort of like introduce you as Jun Jo, the creative director
Right.
for Vast. Not only that, but you're very involved and have been from the start with IN4MATION.
Yeah.
Chat about how
Yes.
you got into being involved with so many cool brands.
Yeah. So information is like, you know, I was at the end of my career. I was probably, well, I was 28, which is pretty young. So kind of like this, I knew I was still pretty relevant, like professional surfing wise, but I knew like I couldn't do this forever. And I was like more hanging out with my friends, like, you know, this is my friend Tajima Buku, Ryan Arakaki, and Keith Kanagasuku. And I was more hanging out with those guys more. And, you know, they were like, for instance, like Todd's background is he ran the music at Borders. So Borders is like a music bookstore kind of chain in America. And so he ran the music. So he was really important in the music scene in Hawaii because he would get all the DJs records. So he was like any kind of DJ, you know, we had records, you had to collect, if you want to play music, you had to get a record. So he was like the guy, like you'd have to go to him to get like, he'd help everyone to get records, whatever they need to play music all around Honolulu. Ryan at the time was one of the best skaters in Hawaii. This rumor has it he won every contest in 1 year in Hawaii.
Wow.
And there's Keith. Keith is a great skater as well, and he was a pretty good graphic designer at the time. And he played music as well, like DJ stuff, mixing, scratching. So, and of course, I'm like the surfer guy, like involved with them. And so we decided to start In4MATION like 24 years ago. I had some extra money in Japan. I was like, okay, guys, like, let's just start our own brand. We'll just see where it goes. And I remember
Like, to step into the world of fashion.
Yeah. And so we're like, let's just do our own shit, you know? And we had a small shop in Mililani, which is like central Oahu, like very small town. And it was the beginning of like, we're even before streetwear, you know, we were one of the first Nike SB accounts, I think maybe globally or around there. We were, you know, had the brands like Zoo York. We're the first Ruka account.
Wow.
Yeah. So like we're just a kind of we created this shop to inform people of what's cool out there, because we had this common bond like music, fashion, art, everything goes with it. So we used information as almost like a platform to like, here, this is what's cool, what we like, this is what we like.
Yeah.
And people really like took to it, and we started to make our own clothing, and that became like incredibly popular. Like just a basic, like the Supreme has our box logo, we have our standard original logo, and that became like crazy, like a collectible globally for people that are into the same stuff that we were. So
Yeah.
you know, people fly all over. You know, when people come to Hawaii, they go to our small store and buy shirts to take home, and we got like some crazy like worldwide notoriety from that, like Complex and
Hypebeast.
Yeah, we knew the guys from Hypebeast when they first started it.
Really? Yeah.
They were like just these college graduates.
Yeah.
They started this blog, and we were friends with them, and
Incredible.
would send them stuff like, hey, check this out, this is kind of cool, and they'd post it, and we were friends with them from the very beginning. Yeah.
So you started as a store essentially.
Yeah.
Showcasing other brands.
Yeah.
Before you even introduced your own label.
Yeah, that's how we started, and soon like our own label overtook everyone else's, and we started making our own stuff, opposed to all the other stuff.
You reverse engineered what we see happening so often in the world today, collaborations between brands, similar brands. I know In4MATION has done some amazing collaborations.
Yeah.
You know, Casio to name, you know, I'm probably just scratching the tip of the iceberg.
So many. I mean, animations like One Punch Man, of course the Casio, G-Shocks, we've done 10 with them.
Yeah.
What else have we done? So many. I mean, being in Hawaii is such like, it's a gift and a curse because you're so far away from everything, but a lot of people come to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And kind of a lot of important people. So we learn from like just being cool and nice and welcoming to people that usually good things happen.
The aloha spirit.
Exactly. And so a lot of these people that are influential, like maybe the creative director of Vans would come to our store, just I think if he wants to buy a shirt that he heard about or wants to check it out, or he's just stopping by, we'd become friends with them. And he'd be like, hey, like, you know, weeks later, he's like, hey, you want to do a shoe? Like, yeah, sure, you know. Or, you know, the head of Casio it's funny, the head of Casio marketing is, he's a surfer from Japan. It comes from my era. So we kind of knew, I didn't know him before, but he kind of probably knew of me.
Yeah.
And we became friends through that. And so it's all integrated in a lot of ways. Yeah.
But it's cool how collaboration forms part of your DNA.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
you started off showcasing other brands before promoting yourself. So it was, you know, you provided a platform for so many brands, and I'm sure brands, as you say, look back on that and go like, you know, thanks for being those guys, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we had at that time Hypebeast was like coming up, so we'd feed them a lot of like stuff about new brands, you know.
Yeah.
Hundreds, we're the first Hundreds account, and we sell like thousands of their stuff. Crooks and Castles were one of the first accounts. We actually made their clothes. We helped start their brand, actually, Crooks and Castles. Yeah.
Wow.
We just started making like their shirts and like pullovers, and then started sending so many of them that they're like, then we just like, it grew so much that they're like, here you go guys, like you guys just run with it, and they actually just probably made millions and millions from it, which is really cool. Yeah.
I'm just looking around. I'm feeling a little few spots.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Vast?
Yeah, so I guess we're gonna go with that. Well, anyway, back to the information real quick. Yeah. So I've learned a lot from information. How to we went to building our own brand, of course, less showcasing other brands, building our own brand. So I learned a lot through that, like, of course, like design, how to market it, how to sell it, production, accounting of it all. So we between myself, Todd, Ryan, and Keith, we learned a lot on the fly. None of us went to school for this, so we learned a lot on the fly over the years how to build a brand. So for me, I learned a lot about like design stuff through that process. Yeah. And that kind of goes into Vast, where again, it's like kind of like being the aloha spirit, you could say. I had a mutual friend that worked for Sam at that time, where I think it was like over 10 years ago. So Sam's the owner of Vast, yeah. And so he was working with a friend, and they wanted to do a shoot in Hawaii to showcase their board shorts. So my friend's like, hey, my friend Sam wants to do a shoot. You wanna be part of it? I'm like, yeah, I'll totally help out. I'll totally, and I just want to help out and be part of like that creative process, and maybe learn a little bit about like how to do like that type of shoot, or how to be production for that kind of shoot. So basically my friend got me to help Sam out. I didn't work, I just helped. And so I got like, the photographer, locations, and during that time they needed models. I told Macy, I'm like, hey Macy, I think this is gonna be a really good opportunity, because Macy didn't have a clothing sponsor at the time. Like, Macy, like, why don't you be a model for this shoot? I think it's gonna be a really good opportunity for you. So during that time, myself and Macy became really good friends with Sam. And then from there, my relationship with Sam, we just really hit it off. We had the same mindset, like how business can be done, how we can grow a brand, just how we can portray ourselves personally, or not portray, but live our lives personally. And so he's probably one of my best friends right now. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so from there, after the shoot, he invited us to this 10-year trip. Well, 10 years ago, he invited us to the original trip to go around Taiwan. And so we further like became friends through that trip. And Sydney asked me, like, can you help me with my brand? And so that's how I got involved with Vast and started like designing stuff, and of course like learning how to market the brand. And I learned from him how like to like do like 3PL and production stuff, because they're really great at that stuff. So yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
Interesting journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Jun is creative director of Vast, and this journey has kind of just been a reminder of where the company's come, and the amount of people that you've all kind of drawn to the brand.
Yeah.
We've got such a diverse group of individuals that we've spent the week with.
Yeah, definitely. a lot of cool personalities, a lot of people. The thing with Vast, like we it took us 10 years, but really to evaluate. Luckily, we had time to evaluate who we are as a brand. Well, we can evaluate what the brand is and what it means, but it all comes back to who we are as people and the people that are involved, and that's what makes the brand. So we really wanted to build a brand that's more inclusive than exclusive. So with streetwear and a lot of fashion stuff we see now, it's very exclusive. And so that's the stuff that I really like about brands out there. They're really like, I got it, you don't kind of attitude, or they make people feel a little lower than others.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a thing that we didn't want to. We as people are not like that. So that's why you're seeing Vast as more of an inclusive brand and more fun, friendly.
And beyond surfing.
Yeah, way beyond surfing. Yeah, a lot of different voices, a lot of like great creatives that are contributed to the brand they might not be like full-blown surfers, but they have a surf DNA in them, and they do other things very great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's with a very strong emphasis on sustainability.
Yeah.
You know, the strapline is nature always wins. And
Yeah.
as we sit here, wanting our very best to not get wet or finish this podcast
Yeah.
in the way in which we started it, nature speaks. And
It happens.
we're sitting here in a little bit of drizzle,
Yeah.
enjoying the rain,
Yeah.
because the plants need water. And yeah, we were fortunate enough to visit a factory yesterday which places a high amount of emphasis on sustainability. And I
Yeah.
think that runs through Vast's DNA, Sam's, yours, and all those that are steering the proverbial ship,
Yeah.
that we need to wake up and make sure that the products that we wear, the way we live our life, is done so sustainably.
We have to. Yeah. It's imperative. I mean, the world's changing at such a fast pace, with this environment stuff, and we're seeing you've seen the summers being longer and more hotter. You're seeing the storms being more aggressive, and so
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta do our part and try and change that trajectory. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing for our brand, is to try and be head that way. Yeah, completely.
Conscious.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
I think this is part one of a podcast with Jun Jo.
Let's do it.
I feel like we could sit here for a few more hours chatting about a lot of your career and what you've done and where you've been. But I appreciate this initial conversation.
Yeah.
A small insight into your very interesting life. I've
Yeah.
really appreciated getting to know you, being able to work with you, and from a personal perspective, really value your style and the way in which you communicate with me and with the team, and it's, from my side, it's refreshing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the podcast as well. I feel like I'm learning a lot. So I think that's something that I try and take away from every podcast, or every life experience. You want to try and take away something and learn from it. So I've learned a lot from the podcast, definitely.
Yeah, that's all we can do. Is we can hopefully these narratives and these, as you say, these little nuggets of, even if we just learn one lesson from 45 minutes or an hour of discussion, we've learned something new.
Yeah.
That we can possibly apply to our life and hopefully
be better. Yeah.
Be better.
Yeah.
Day by day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jun.
Right on.
It's been an absolute pleasure, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate you and appreciate your time. And yeah, follow Jun Jo. We're going to leave all his links down below. Give him some love when you're on the street. Give him a high five.